her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Hey everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. I hope you guys are doing great out there. Thank you so much for joining me here and being a part of the Paranormal Portal. It's our Friday 2-hour show. Got that lovely hiss in the background, so I don't know what the hell it is, but it only comes up on network nights, so it must be something with the configuration. But anyway, we are doing pretty well here. I hope you had a great week. Happy Friday. It's now your weekend, so I hope you are all set to enjoy the hell out of it because I think we're rapidly approaching the end of these summer weekends, and that's always painful. I mean, it really is. I just don't like cold, but I don't know. I like the Halloween season, so I guess there's that. But what do you do? Nothing you can do. Just roll with it. But anyway, welcome to the show. And during the duration of our show, if you want to call in and be a part of it, you sure can. The phone number for the show is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. Those are the numbers for fun right here on the Paranormal Portal, and I will be happy to answer your call if you call in. So we got that going for us, but hopefully you got a good show lined up for you. I've been working extra hard to bring some cryptids to the show because we kind of took a break from that for a while, and it's kind of fun to come back to it. No, it's a lot of fun to come back to it, actually. And I know a lot of you are very passionate about the cryptids and stuff, so that's extra cool. And I've got a bunch of things pulled up about the Dogman that we're going to discuss tonight because, I can't think of a more... If I had to run into a cryptid, and while none of them I don't think would be comfortable, my least favorite idea of running into one is got to be the Dogman, just because of the sheer ferocity and voracity and I don't know, the intensity of those experiences that people are having when they do see them. And some of them are just benign and fine, but others are just over the top and people are just, I don't know. You know what the difference seems to be that, what is that ticking sound? It's like someone in the background hitting the metal on the cement or something. Weird. But it there it is again. But anyway, some of them seem like they're really up close and personal. Like when you hear about encounters with Dogman, and this is me very much generalizing, not trying to be absolutely factual here, but it seems like these encounters tend to be pretty up close and personal. Like when people see them, they're like right in front of them, generally, or there seems to be a bit of a almost a counting coup kind of thing, as Bear says, where they want to get really up close and personal, and they really want to intimidate people, and they really want people to back out of wherever they are. Again, it's hard to know why, and anytime these things become territorial, we can only assume, but a lot of times the assumption is they're family groups nearby, but, and that could be the case for the Dogman as well. But if you're not familiar with what the Dogman is, first of all, you should get familiar with it if you're into the paranormal, because these things are absolutely intense, and for all intents and purposes, they are the living embodiment of our folklore version of werewolves. People that have had close encounters with them describe them as looking like the werewolves from the Underworld series with Kate Beckinsale. And, I don't know if you're familiar with those movies or not, but those werewolves were intimidating as hell. And if I saw that in real life, I don't know what I would do. But we'll also discuss a little bit more of other stuff, some of it related, some of it not related at all to the Dogman encounters that people are having. I don't mean to take Vic Cundiff's. I don't mean to steal his title, but all I can say is people have encounters with Dogman, so you say Dogman encounters. But anyway, special thank you to Freaky Friday for starting it out tonight. Always a pleasure following you guys. Love you guys a bunch, and I miss you guys. We've done some crossover shows with the Freaky Friday guys, and had a lot of fun. I've been a guest over there, and then we did a kind of a marathon, Freaky Friday Paranormal Portal marathon on the last Friday the 13th, and we're going to try to do them on every Friday the 13th. But it looks like the next one coming up, if I'm correct, is like November. So it'll be a while before we'll have another crossover with the Freaky Friday guys. But, yeah, this static's driving me crazy. It's hard to focus when you got a fuzz in your ear. Let's see, Farm, give me a call, will you, please? Wes has a Dogman show out, too. Yeah. From the YouTube chat. BPD says Wes has a Dogman show out too. He does, and he gets quite a few people talking about those as well on his show. It's just intense. There are people having these encounters. Now, I'm pretty much under the impression that they were more rare than Bigfoot sightings, but as I've looked into it more and more, I've seen some people claim that they're actually more common. It's more common to have an encounter with Dogman. It looks like Farm is calling me, so let me get over to there. Are you there, brother?
Howdy ho, Brent. Hope I can clear your line noise for you.
You did. It's much better. Thank you so much. Is it okay if I leave you muted and come back to you?
Yeah, you could do that. No, leave me muted. If you're going to leave me muted, you got to leave me muted for good.
No, it's just for some reason.
No, yeah, it's fine.
With the system the way it is, when I get a phone call, boom, it clears up really nice. But until then, it's like I'm sitting next to a waterfall, so it's just driving me crazy. Anyway, hopefully we'll nail that down. But thank you, brother. I'll put you on hold, and if it gets noisy again, I'm going to unmute you.
Sounds like a plan, man.
All right, thank you. All right, so I have Farm on hold here on the side. He's going to be our noise moderator. If it gets a little noisy, I'll just go over to him, and hopefully that'll clear it up. As you can hear, it's already gotten better. So I'm not sure what the issue is, but it's there. So anyway, back to the Dogman. We're going to get into some of these stories right now. I've found several different people that have claimed to have these encounters. I gotta say, it just sounds really intense. But the first one is actually, I think it was Beth, our listener Beth, I think sent this one over to our Facebook page. And this one is actually coming from myracinecounty.com. And it's a website and has to do with Racine County. I believe that's Wisconsin. And it says, man says he saw Beast of Bray Road in Lyons. Lyons is a town over there. And we're going to get into this article and see what it is. And this was from July 10th of this year. The author is Ed Nadolski. And again, this is the myracinecounty.com. And it says, Lake Geneva resident claims he saw werewolf-like creature twice in 1 month. So let me zoom in here. It says, with the coof affecting thousands, people are afraid to leave the house and racial tensions running high in the United States. Stories about werewolves can provide quite the necessary distraction. But werewolves? Seriously? Around here, the Beast of Bray Road is a famous legend, known for its location on Bray Road, which starts along Highway 11 east of Elkhorn and winds west to Highway NN and I-43, just outside of Elkhorn Area High School. There's been a movie about this mythical beast, a 7-foot hairy brown giant, that has frightened locals, which have claimed they have seen it. One of these locals is Lake Geneva resident Ron Rice. Every once in a while, Rice travels to the town of Lyons for work, where he drops off fertilizer at a farm on Highway 36, just west of Church Road. It's a Burlington address, and there's a circle gravel driveway where Rice loads up a truck with fertilizer. There are deep woods, according to Rice, about 150 feet away from the driveway. Back in May, Rice was on a routine drop off in broad daylight, sitting in his truck. He looked into the distance about 150 feet, he thinks, and a figure caught his eye. This thing was huge. It was over 7 feet tall, Rice said. It was brown and hairy with coarse hair. It walked out, picked up something, and then turned its back towards me and went back into the woods. 2 weeks later, Rice said he saw the beast again, and again it walked out of the woods and quickly returned. According to Wikipedia, the beast is a werewolf-like creature, and the creature was first reported in 1936. I don't think that's actually, well, maybe the Bray Road beast was first reported in 1936, but the Dogman stuff goes back, I believe, into the 1800s from Michigan. But anyway, a rash of claimed sightings in the late 1980s and early 1990s prompted a local newspaper, the Walworth County Week, to assign a reporter to cover the story, and the lore grew from there. Southern Lakers newspaper, the company that publishes this website, last reported on a sighting of the beast in February 2018. Danny Morgan reported seeing the beast about 10 p.m. January 27th in the town of Spring Prairie while driving from Lake Geneva to his home in Menominee Falls. And Morgan also provided a blurry cell phone photo of the beast that accompanies this story. That's just it. A lot of, like, this kind of a sighting is very distant. It's not very up close and personal, but it almost seems intentional. As smart as these things are rumored to be, they wouldn't have to run out on the road and grab something, but it chose to. And I don't know. That's the weird part. Jeez, I got a little spider crawling at me. The weird part is that sometimes they do seem to want people to see them. And that's also an issue with the Bigfoot. Bigfoot sightings are often encountered in the strangest of situations. Now, for all intents and purposes, what we know about these creatures is that they seem to actively avoid us. But every once in a while, there's the ones that don't. And I don't know if it's an individualistic thing or if they just, some of them just don't care. Just like some people just don't care. Do they have that same kind of behavioral diversity? I ain't running from these little things. They don't scare me. Maybe they just don't care. But sometimes the sightings are in broad daylight, way out in the open, and these beings, these huge beings, whether it's Bigfoot or even like a dogman in this case, they just don't seem to be in any hurry. They'll look and even acknowledge the people in many cases, and then just wander off on their way, like, oh, you're there, and continue on their way, like they're just completely undaunted. And I find that fascinating because obviously they know the people are there. I think that probably any of these creatures know we're in the forest lands around wherever they are, probably the moment we step foot in the woods. And either they choose to check out what people are doing because of the fabled curiosity of these things, or they just don't care. Now, I would say that in the scope of physical capability, they really don't have much to worry about from people. The only thing that they would probably have to worry about is firearms. Now, the difference being between the Dogman and the Bigfoot is that there are many stories of people shooting and swearing they hit these dogmen, but to no effect. And that's kind of hard to understand. Is it that these beings are just so hard to bring down that they don't even They don't even budge for a bullet ripping through them, or is the bullet somehow ineffectual against them? Are they bulletproof? I mean, I don't know. And I realize what a stretch that is, because of course, hunting rounds are meant to go through bodies. That's what they're designed to do. So, if these things are flesh and blood and a bullet rips through them, it should have, those same repercussions as it does for a deer or a bear or a wolf or whatever. But for some reason, when people are talking about shooting these things, including headshots, body shots, several rounds, there seems to be absolutely no effect. And I don't believe blood trails are found either as a result of these encounters. So, for all intents and purposes, it does seem that in many cases these things are not vulnerable to firearms, which is incredible. Whereas with the Bigfoot, there's many, many, many stories out there of people shooting them, injuring them, wounding them, and even killing them. I don't know how many are true or if any of them are true. It's anybody's guess, but there does seem to be something about bullets do seem to affect the Sasquatch, but they do not seem to affect the Dogman. And what does that mean? Well, I mean, anybody's guess, really. And if you have an idea of what you think about that, please, by all means, call in. Again, 720-923-0500. It's getting kind of staticky, so I'm going to head back over to Carlton. Are you there, brother?
Hey.
Thank you. I appreciate you being my noise buffer tonight, brother.
You're very welcome. And I've heard some crazy encounters about the Dogman, man. That's one cryptid I have no desire to run into, be around, even really think about beyond like pondering what the heck that thing could be.
Yeah.
I saw a YouTube or a podcast or something somewhere a year or two ago when I looked into that stuff a bit. They were talking about the history of it in England, and I guess it goes way back into the 1600s. There was a whole town that was inhabited by these beasts, they called them.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, great topic, Brent.
Oh, thank you, brother.
Very interesting, and hopefully the noise is knocked out for now.
It is, but I really appreciate you being there for me to keep doing this, because it drives me crazy. It just really does. So, all right, brother, I'll get back to you as soon as we need you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Good points that he brought up there. Now, conversely, this is not a North American phenomenon. At least it doesn't appear to be on the surface. Now, some people talk about the historical attributes of the Dogman, in that there are several examples in history of dog-headed people, and I believe they're referred to as the cynocephaly. And there's ancient stories of them being fierce warriors and being recruited by armies to win wars and stuff, because they were so ferocious and so tenacious and so battle hardened or whatever. They just really were the mercenaries for hire. And in the Catholic Church, Saint Christopher was apparently the dog-headed saint. And there are depictions of him being looking like a man in his priestly robes or whatever, and then a dog head. And I don't know, but is that the same thing? And I can't say that, because obviously a person, and by all descriptions of the cynocephaly, they were about the same size as people and looked like people, with the exception of the neck up, whereas they had canid features. They had canine type features. And so, is that the same thing people are reported seeing now? And I would kind of debate that. I'm not quite sure that this is one and the same. Maybe it's somehow related. Maybe it's some offshoot, like we are an offshoot of other primates like chimpanzees and gorillas and stuff, the great apes. We are very, very similar to them, but are quite different as well. So then you get to the point of Egyptian, the god Anubis, who my cat is named after, but he is depicted as like a jackal-headed man, and it looks pretty imposing, really. But it's obviously, everybody knows when you say the dog-headed guy from Egypt. Boom, everybody has that image in their mind. The thing with that is this is where I get a little hung up because I don't know that those gods or deities of Egyptian lore could be referenced as possibly being real people, because I don't think I've heard of falcon-headed people or alligator-headed people or cow-headed people that are also depicted in the Egyptian pantheon. So I don't know why the Anubis character would be different than that. Or was there? Maybe there were as well. I don't know, but I haven't heard of those. And so that would be my fallback on that. Is that really one and the same? And I don't know, but we do have another call here. Let me just check the phone lines or the time quick. Okay. Yeah, we're fine. Let me get to this phone caller. And this is area code 605. You're on the air. Hello? Area code 605. Hi, hello? Uh-oh. Seems to be having some kind of phone trouble there. I don't, are you there, caller? Huh. Doesn't look like that call worked for some reason. Oh, I'm going to remute it. Oh, are you there? No, something's wrong with that call. Could you call again? Try calling again, please. See if you can get through next time. I don't know what's going on, but that call is not coming through. So if you'd please call again, area code 605, we'll try to get you back on the air when you call back. But those are the historical precedents that are often brought up in relation to the dog man, and it is something. Perhaps there were, in regards to the cynocephaly, perhaps one of them became revered in the ancient Egypt. I don't know. Maybe they are one and the same. But from what I've gathered by the depictions of the cynocephaly, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but artists have obviously painted a lot of old paintings back referencing what they may have looked like, or maybe based upon description what they look like. And they really seem to have looked like almost like the head of a golden retriever on top of a person's body, or some other dog like that that has the floppy ears, not the peaked ears like wolves or German shepherds or jackals or anything like that. So all of the artistic depictions of the cynocephaly were more of the flop-eared type. And I don't know if that is based on anything other than the mind of the artist, but in any case, it's not given the same feature set as what we presume to be werewolves and wolves and the dogman as we know it and as it's reported here in the U.S. and abroad. Now, I will say that the dogman phenomena really kind of surprised me, much in the same way the Bigfoot phenomena surprised me, in that when I first heard of the dogman, it was the Michigan dogman. And then later on, years later, I heard of the Beast of Bray Road, which again would be Wisconsin. So we have Michigan and Wisconsin represented. Then I began to hear about them being in Ohio. And it's like, well, and now I'm hearing claims all over the United States. And there are some claims in other countries as well. I don't know if it's quite as widespread as the Bigfoot phenomena or the Bigfoot Yowie Yeren, insert regional name is. But I was very surprised that the phenomenon was as widespread as it was. Now, I don't believe that they suddenly just spread from Michigan everywhere else. But I think much like the Bigfoot phenomena, where it was a being of the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, and Northern California into Canada, it was just a regional creature. Well, then it became so much more with skunk apes and wood boogers and grassmen and all of a sudden these things were everywhere. But it wasn't that they suddenly were. It was that there was a unifying terminology that was able to tie that all together. I believe at one point, but in my experience, the first thing I heard of was Patty. Patty was in Bluff Creek, so that's where that was. But I soon found out later in my life that no, they're everywhere. There's only one state that the Bigfoot phenomena is not represented or claimed to be, and that's Hawaii. Otherwise, every state has had some kind of reporting or people claiming to have come face to face with Bigfoot. Now we got about a minute before the break, but I do see that call came back in, so let's try that. Are you there? Area code 605.
Hello?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Taco. I'm good, brother. You know, I've got about a minute before the break, so can you hold the line and
No.
I'll get to you on the other side of the
Yeah,
break.
yeah.
Okay. Very good. I'm gonna put you back
Yeah,
on.
of
I'm
course.
gonna put you back on hold, and I'll come back to you right away when we come back, brother.
Wonderful.
All right. I just want to make sure the call worked before we went to break, so we'll get right back with you on the other side. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got about 30 seconds before the first bell hits. Of course, the breaks are always heralded by a bell. So we're going to go to that. And that, you know, if you're new to the show, if this is your first time in, right now we are simulcasting on TFR Live, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. And there are half-hour breaks. And so in order to keep that in sync with the YouTube stream, on YouTube, I do a little video segments of paranormal videos along with some music, just so you don't have to listen to the ads on the network. But then we'll come back in. So if you get ads, don't flee, don't leave. We'll be right back. We just got to keep it all tied together. So that's what's going on. But the bell's going to come in just a second here. And then we'll go to break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes to continue on our discussion about the Dogmen and more here on the Paranormal Portal. Don't you just love the sound of Skype trying to figure out where the sound should be? Because there's static on the line, it's loud, but it's also getting the network feed and it's competing. So that's why it's jumping in and out like that. Is Skype's keeps throwing back the line back and forth, trying to figure out who should be heard. So that's what gave us that impressive intro to the second half hour here on the Paranormal Portal. We've got some call on the board here that we're going to get to in just a second, but I wanted to take a minute and address a couple of the comments from the TFR live chat. And that's at tfrlive.com/chat. Dawn Stu2 says that she had heard a report of someone shooting the dogmen and saw the bullet hit. Fur flew, but it didn't stop and kept going. However, the person, while it didn't find blood, did find the fur, allegedly, and had the fur tested, and it's not of known origin. So that's pretty cool because it's kind of reinforces the fact that it could be a whole different species. And then, I wish it wouldn't do this. There it goes. Where is it? Man, I lost it already. There we go. The other one was Buzzacino over there says, there's one that was on TikTok where this thing passes by the edge of the woods near a lamppost outside of a man's home. And when you see this thing, it definitely looks like a proper werewolf, and where it passes behind the lamppost is hard to call fake. Yeah, I believe there's probably very good footage out there of all of these things. It's hard to substantiate, and it's hard to get people to buy into it or at least accept it as real. But let's get to the phone line here, and this is our good friend Taco Violator is in the phone. 605, Mr. Taco, are you there, sir?
I am here. How about you?
I am here. As far as I know, I'm here. This may just be a dream, though.
Yeah, one never knows,
Yeah, I
So
hear
that's
you.
kind of how it goes.
Is this real or just a simulation? That's the big question. But what's on your mind tonight, brother?
All right, couple questions here. It's really not so much that I've had a paranormal experience, but a couple questions more or less for you. It seems like the audience enjoys my questions to you, so I figured, I better ask a couple here.
Okay.
Now, your experience with Bigfoot. You're out in the mountains and you had something behind you, correct?
Yeah, it wasn't the mountains. It was the hills in Minnesota. So, yeah.
The hills of Minnesota. Okay, so close enough.
Sure.
But anyways, what made you decide that was actually Bigfoot and not the Dogman? What if it was the Dogman?
Well, I guess it's a few factors. I guess, on the face value, it could have been anything that was big and making a huge growling noise, because I didn't turn and see it, because I couldn't turn and see it. Not because I couldn't move, because I just didn't want to see what that was that made that noise. It was so terrifying. So I carried that for so many years, but it wasn't until I started learning about Bigfoot many, many, many years later and found out about the tree breaks and other things that they do and some of the structures that they make. And one of the key things I think that leads me to believe that it was probably more Bigfoot related than Dogman is, and it could be. In fact, one of the stories that I've got pulled up for going over tonight talks about the Minnesota Dogman. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But when I was investigating the area many years later, I found what was like a broken maple sapling branch, and it was pretty small, like the small, really soft ones that are still green underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was laying on the ground, but it was stripped of all the bark. It was like something came along and took this. It was about a 2.5 foot stick, maybe 2.5 foot, but it was stripped of all that soft, sweet bark. And I was like, wow. And so immediately when I found that and I started putting it all together, that maybe that sound all those years ago was a Bigfoot. What my mind went to right away was images of primates like gorillas snapping those branches and stripping the bark and chewing, strips of bark, which makes sense to me as maybe a primate type behavior. But just from all of the descriptions I've heard of dogmen, I've never heard that they were ever munching on leaves or bark or anything like that. So I guess it's just an assumption most of all, but I don't have any real way to know. But just judging by what I found, that being so synonymous with Bigfoot researchers, what they find, I just figured, well, it must be that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, without wanting to turn around and see what may or may not, send you to a higher plane than what we are.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I thought was coming,
I
brother.
guess that would be it.
I thought I was hearing the last thing I was going to hear. I really did. I thought I was going to die. So I was 14 years old. So
Well, we're
whatever it was huge, and it terrified the hell out of me.
yeah. Well, at least you're still here to entertain us. So
Amen. So yeah, but that's why I figured Bigfoot.
okay. Now, my other kind of question, maybe not so much off topic, but out there. Now, the Egyptians seem to have a fascination with dog heads, I guess, is what you would kind of describe them as. You've seen a lot of Egyptian rulers and their more distinguished deceased, I guess, with that kind of dog style head on them.
Well, just
and there's also been a lot of things.
Yeah, mostly the Anubis character or depiction of Anubis, but
yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, Anubis.
Yeah.
Now, I know there's been a lot of rumors going around that maybe, with their technology and how the pyramids are built, how none of that could have been possible without some sort of otherworldly interjection, I would say.
Sure.
Now, do you think that maybe the Anubis style or anything like that was from the possible encounters of this dog man, and they kind of saw him or caught glimpses of him and assumed that he was a god, so they kind of based part of their beliefs or their culture on that particular paranormal event? Because I mean, they also, I think they feared cats, was it, or were the cats like
they were
like a deity to them?
Yeah, the cats were revered. My understanding of them is that they pretty much felt that they were part of this plane and part of the spirit world and were guardians to temples and stuff. So they felt that they were very spiritually potent to have around, is my understanding. I'm not an expert in anything Egypt, so this is just my
okay.
understandings. But yeah.
Yeah. Now,
go ahead.
From my understanding, is the dog man has ears similar to a cat, I would say.
More like.
So, do you think that?
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, do you think? No. Do you think that that could be a possibility of where that figure may have come from, where Anubis came from? Maybe, dating back that long ago, that maybe the dog man had some sort of influence on the Egyptians, or do you think that that's maybe just too big of a mystery to even comprehend for someone like me with a teeny little, brain like I have?
Stop it. No, I think that the head of Anubis is pretty much a jackal, which is a common type of canine creature over there. And there still is.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, it's possible. I guess it would be wild speculation for me to say either way, but I don't, it depends on how far spread these things always were. I don't know. There's belief that these things came to the U.S. from England or Europe and came over here. There's beliefs they've been here a lot longer. It's anybody's guess, brother. It's a dice roll because there's the species isn't even really substantiated, so it's hard to attribute a history to something that we can't categorically say, hey, yes, they're here, this is proof, and now let's talk about their history. But I mean, sure, that could be a plausible idea. Everything is on the board, everything is on the table because we just don't know.
Yeah.
So
now, one other story. This may be a little bit more off the wall, but I've been listening to Believe podcast, Kate Moya's podcast,
mm-hmm.
and I just listened to one where he had a woman talk about how she's been abducted and all this other good stuff, and how they did, she's had multiple, I forgot what she called them, alien human kids or something like that.
Hybrids. Yeah.
Whatever.
Sure.
Hybrid. So do you think that, I know it's going to sound crazy, but whatever, I'm Taco, so it doesn't matter. That maybe the aliens on this planet, there's cow mutilations, there's sheep mutilations, there's all these other kind of animal mutilations, and those are like a primary food source / cattle / resource for us, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that maybe the aliens have attempted some sort of alien / Sasquatch hybridization, and maybe that's where the dogmen may have come from? Maybe some sort of, I don't know, genetic experiment gone wrong.
Well, and
for the Grays or whoever.
That's a possibility. There's other people that would suggest that there's some creation of our scientists as well, or at least a version of them are. And I can't speak to that, but it's hard to know, brother. They could be just some kind of science experiment gone awry, much like the killer bees. It's like, we're going to make a better bee. And then what do you get? You get killer bees. And then somebody leaves the lab door open, leave the lab door open, and the next thing you know, they're spreading all over the place. But, I don't know. Anytime we tinker with stuff, it goes sideways, and I'm sure it's maybe the same for the aliens too. I don't know. When they tinker with stuff, maybe it goes sideways just like it does for us. But yeah, it's all on the table. Again, it's the same thing. Any idea is plausible because there's no boundaries on this thing. There's just thoughts.
Yeah, that's true. It's that's kind of the way it is, and I think someone in your position having the podcast, a lot of people like me, I'm not trying to sound mean here or anything, but I assume that you have a lot more knowledge about these things than I would. So I think that's why people like me would call in and ask you these questions.
Sure. I wish I did, but I just don't. I don't think anybody has these answers. It's just we just got a bunch of ideas, and then that's all we got until we can start substantiating something. I think that Bigfoot and Dogman research is moving along, and I think that's one thing that I'd say has come out of it is that there does seem to be some established behaviors that seem consistent, so I mean, all of these people out there pounding the sticks and getting out there and looking and researching and setting different types of traps to try to capture something. I think their work is doing something because it's teaching us what they do and what they don't do, what they will stumble into and what they won't. And so far we got a lot of won't, that they seem to be pretty adept at avoiding whatever we put out there. But as technology emerges and as our abilities emerge through that technology, I think that, we'll be able to start substantiating even more than that. But I think these people out there have really done a lot to help us potentially understand habits. And when you understand what something does and maybe some idea of how it does it and where it does it, then, it kind of refines the search. So even though we don't really know anything, we know a little bit more all the time, I think. And I think it'd be so much better if we could get some cooperation in those research fields between researchers, because it's so competitive and it's so there's so much vitriol, all over the place for anybody trying to do something. There's about 10 other ones that are, talking them down or putting them down. And it's like, anybody that's out there looking into this stuff has my respect, because it's a labor of love. They're doing it because they love it. They're not doing it because they're, getting rich. Mostly it's out of pocket. Everything they do, it's not being funded by anybody. They're just doing it because they want to know. And so I think that these things, if anything comes out about them, it'll be the blood, sweat, and tears of average people doing it, not universities, not teams of biologists and scientists. It's going to be the average people out there just figuring it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Before I let you go, I got one more question for you. I gotta ask.
Okay.
Just to get your thoughts on it. Now, there's a lot of Sasquatch, Yowie, Bigfoot sightings, and there's a few dogman sightings, but they are out there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it seems like every species has a hierarchy or some form of leadership. Don't you laugh at me. Sorry. Do you think that maybe the dogman could be like the general of the Bigfoot? Like every once in a while he stops by and gives humanity or people who are interested in it or something like that sightings to kind of keep us away from discovering the truth about them?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it the other way, that somehow the dogman is more subordinate to Bigfoot. But either one is
Mm-hmm.
either one is possible. Sure, they could cooperate. Maybe they're extraordinarily territorial. I've heard both. I've heard stories of people talking about dogmen and Bigfoot living in the same area and cooperating together, being close. I've heard other stories where they're extraordinarily territorial and they have very well defined boundaries between the two species. And they respect those boundaries, because to not respect them is outright war. I've heard a lot of possibilities about that, and again, there's no answers, but I'd say that it's all fair game again.
Yeah, I think when it comes to dogman versus Bigfoot or whatever, Bigfoot is a very giant, very powerful humanoid, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But the dogman, from what I've heard, they have the weapons, they have the claws, the teeth, the speed, everything else. So you would think that unless a Bigfoot could physically, if this is true at all, if a Bigfoot and a dogman ever confronted, you would just think that the dogman would have the advantage because it's basically a werewolf, is what people are describing. So you'd think that since they're relatively known to be about the same size, that me personally, I think that a werewolf style Bigfoot could definitely control a Bigfoot of the same size with more human features, not the claws, nothing like that. So that's where that whole theory in my head comes from. That maybe the dogman is actually the alpha of the Bigfoot.
Yeah, well, it's I've heard, not to keep this going too much longer, but I've heard stories of dogmen attacking Bigfoots and tearing them up. I've heard stories of Bigfoot
Mm-hmm.
tearing up a huge dogman, like a big Bigfoot and a big dogman came out of the woods and basically just crashed out of the woods. And there was a witness nearby, and the witness said that the Bigfoot just basically grabbed the dogman and snapped its neck and then roared. I don't know. Yeah, it's possible. It's all possible, brother. I wish I had answers, but like I said, it's all on the board because we just don't know.
Alrighty. Well, I appreciate your time, and
Oh, anytime.
I don't mean to keep you here forever. So
No. It's I don't mean to push you off as well, but yeah, I wish I had the answers.
no,
I really do.
no, it's not a problem. You got to get back to your show, but so I don't get in trouble again, if you don't mind if I give a couple quick shout outs here.
By all means, go ahead.
Okay, let's see here. I need to give a shout out to Cha Cha because she always yells at me every time I don't. Seeds and Chris and oh man, I'm drawing Swigger. There's I'm having a blank right now. See, when I try to do this is why I don't do it.
You sound like you just won an
But
Oscar.
anyways, I'm gonna let you go, let you get back to your show. I don't mean to take up all your time.
You're fine, brother. Great to hear from you, and thanks for calling in.
Thanks for listening, man. You have a wonderful night, and everyone else too.
All right, take care.
All right, bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was our very own Taco from the YouTube chat. And Taco is the brilliant guy that made that centerpiece right up there, the lighted Paranormal Portal sign. Well, he made the sign and I mounted it on a shadow box with a light behind it. But beautiful work. It's become the centerpiece of our studio here. So thank you, brother. I appreciate your continuing contributions to the show. But yeah, I mean, that's the problem with all this is there's lots of ideas, there's lots of theories, and honest to God, it's all fair. It's all on the table because we just don't know. Nobody knows who's in charge of what. Is one group in charge of the other? Are they, does it maybe depend on the region? Maybe it depends on the region. Maybe they do live cooperatively in some areas. In other areas, they're extraordinarily territorial. I don't know. It's hard to say, but it's all on the table. I really wish I knew because that would be fascinating and fantastic to have some of those answers. But, any of your ideas, ladies and gentlemen, is just as valid as anybody else's. So don't ever apologize for having a thought because, put it on the table. What the hell? I mean, at the very least, nobody will agree with you. At the very most, you might inspire some other thoughts or somebody else to come up with another idea. And, discussion creates progress, I mean, it really does. It creates progress. So you got to change ideas and exchange ideas in order to have a dialogue. So don't ever apologize for having an idea. So we got so much more to do here. We're just down to about 4 minutes before the hour break already, if you can believe that. It's just flown by. But I thought that first article was cool. And we had Linda Godfrey on the show. If you have not seen that episode, check our archives on YouTube, and it's Linda Godfrey discusses the Dogman or whatever I called it. It is still our most successful episode here on the show, and it continues to get continues to bring in views all the time. So the Dogman community is definitely a very motivated community as well, or perhaps there's just a cryptid community. Bigfoot, Dogman, it's all kind of the same boat. I don't know. I know that there's some people that research Bigfoot that don't really buy into the Dogman thing, but it seems like it's pretty much even keeled. If you believe in one, you seem to be more accepting to the possibility of the other one. Now, again, in this Dogman thing, I don't know if there's as many sightings. I've heard that there are more sightings of Dogman than there are of Bigfoot. I don't know that that's true, because I'm sure as hell not seeing them if they are being seen that much. Or I'm not seeing reports like that. But I forgot where I was going with that thought. But the thing is that they are seen all over the place. They are found. Linda Godfrey put together that they seem to stick very close to waterways. And also on that video, she appeared with a good friend and fellow researcher, Mr. Lee Hempel, who was on that episode with her, and he shares some of his trail cam photos, some of the stories of the amazing things that have happened in their research efforts to try to camera trap to see what the hell's out there, and some of the most amazing stories of camera trap evasion you'll ever hear, like things happening in seconds. Like to paraphrase one instance, they laid out a deer carcass that was found on the road. They laid it out, tied it with ropes, put a camera trap on it so that if anything moved in there, it would capture it. And what had happened was they caught like a weird mist in just a few frames, and then the next frame it was gone, but so was the deer. So like this mist moved in, and the ropes that they had tied it down with were cut. They were cut like with a knife, but it happened so fast and so quickly that it's impossible. Someone came in there with a knife, cut all these ropes, and carried out a 120-pound carcass. So it wasn't a person, whatever did it, but there's also some really cool trail cam pictures where it seems like something is manifesting out of nothing. So there's like a series of 3 of them, and there is an object that appears in the middle frame that is absolutely 3-dimension. It catches the light. It has all the characteristics of something that is actually there in that frame, but it's a series of three shots that are like fractions of a second apart. And there's also what looks like an orb that moves quite a bit from each frame to each frame. So it's faster than a bug or any bird or anything. But some really incredible stuff came up on that episode. So I would recommend, if this is your topic, if you love learning about the Dogman stuff, definitely check out that episode, because there's a hell of a lot of amazing things that were brought up, some amazing evidence they brought with them and was showcased on this show. We got to have the exclusive, which was amazing. I was just floored. So I guess we're going to go to our hour break, ladies and gentlemen. Hour break right here on the portal. So we're going to go to that in just a few seconds. Again, don't go away. We'll be back right on the other side of it with more of the Paranormal Portal. So I hope you won't miss it. Again, if you're new to the show on YouTube, these are breaks that align with the network. So we got to take them. So don't go away. More to come.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger boils inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
A nightmare from which they cannot wake. I can see you, Mommy. Where are you? I've never sensed anything like it. Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that's different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeist are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the hour number 2 of the Paranormal Portal tonight. Tonight, we are talking about all things Dogman and more. And I'm going to, okay, kind of quieted down there. I was a little nervous, didn't know what I was going to get after that break. If we were going to get the waterfall or the raging river or just a little rainfall. Sounds like rainfall. Let's see if Carlton's there. Are you there, Carlton?
Hour number 2 of the Paranormal Portal tonight.
Hello?
We're talking about all things Dogman.
All right, he might be napping there, but I was going to see if he could talk and straighten out that, but we'll get back to him in just a moment. But anyway, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about the Dogman and more here on the Paranormal Portal tonight. Some great call from Taco. Thank you, brother. And again, the phone lines are open. If you all have an opinion you want to share on this Dogman thing, I'd love to hear it because, I mean, to me, it's an open book. It's all an open slate. So, again, any idea is valid. There are no bad ideas. But the number for the show is 720-923-0500. If you want to call in, again, 720-923-0500. Dawn's in the TFR chat said that she heard that if you ever see a Sasquatch, you're not supposed to smile because if you smile, maybe it's showing the teeth. That's not a good thing. Now, I will say that is a primate thing. That is true with the great apes. If you see a gorilla, you should never smile at it because it might rip off your legs and beat you to death with it. That is a sign of aggression or a sign of high stress in primates. If they ever smile, and they're not mimicking our smile. They are under a great deal of stress, and you're probably in going to be in for some trouble if you don't have a nice security wall between you. They are if they smile at you, it's a bad sign. So definitely you have to de-escalate. So I don't know, maybe that's true for the Bigfoot as well, that they may have those very primate kind of behaviors. I'm not sure about dogmen because I don't think dogs care if you smile. They don't care. They don't care what kind of mood you're in. No, I love dogs. I absolutely adore dogs and cats. So I'm not talking creepily about any of those things because I've had both, and I don't know. They are a part of our hearts. But anyway, let's continue on this Dogman journey that we're on tonight. I've got some more articles here to go through with you guys. I got to remember to close them as I go. This one is coming from Ann Arbor, and this article is from October 29th of 2018. It's coming from welovemichigan.online. So this is a little weird. I used to live in Michigan for a while. I was there in, I guess, 1988, which dates me quite a bit, but 88 or 89, one of those two. But I was out there for about a year and lived near Flint. Never caught any whiff of any dogmen or any reports down there, but that's Lower Peninsula. I think a lot of the dogman stuff comes around the Great Lakes themselves or Upper Peninsula, but I might be wrong. It could be anywhere. We got another call here, but let's get to that and see what's going on. And this is area code 225. You're on the air.
Hey, how you doing, Brent?
Hey, I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm all right, man. This is Ben.
Ben? How you doing, Ben?
Yeah. All right, man. Do you think there's any connection between the cryptids and aliens at all?
Wow, I think there really very well could be. Of course, I think we all know the stories that kind of place them at the same place at the same time. Some people even claim they see Bigfoot getting out of alien spaceship and going into them, but I don't know. I guess it's possible. Now, I always defer to. There's a gentleman named Lloyd Pye. He's passed away now. Are you familiar with that, Ben?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So his
Yes,
his
yes.
talk on everything you know is wrong. He did a great job, kind of laying out the whole history of species here, including the Bigfoot, including us, and it's really fascinating, compelling, and I guess on a gut level, I'm kind of on that page, that maybe
Okay. So,
we're the hybrids that don't really belong here, and it fits too, because if you look at us, we
you
are.
said it right. You said it right. Hybrids.
Yeah, because we are not at all equipped for living here. Like every other thing on the face of this earth has the natural tools and abilities to survive and thrive here.
Absolutely.
We are, we're
Claws.
born. Yeah, we need
Yeah,
shelter. We need
definitely.
clothing. We need shelter. We need technologies to help us to compete. We need weapons. We don't have any of those things naturally. So it seems like
Yeah, man.
we might be the oddballs in this whole picture.
You are right about that. So, I mean, so we could be genetically related to Bigfoot, but where does that put Dogman?
I don't know. That's the weird part. Where does it put these things?
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, where did they come
That
from?
is strange.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And when you look at it, to see to imagine the Bigfoot being a part of the lineage of primates, and the next steps and stuff, it makes sense. For Dogman, I don't know what could be the
It
common
doesn't.
ancestor there. Yeah, doesn't seem to be a common ancestor.
Yeah, but there's, like way back in time with the Sumerians and then the Anunnaki.
Uh-huh.
So they made certain creatures, right, to do the Anunnaki made certain creatures to do their labor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly.
Right.
And then you look at the Egyptian gods, they have so many different heads. They have crocodile heads.
Yes.
They have dog heads like Anubis,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, man, how did they build the pyramids? How did humans build the pyramids? You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially way back then, when there wasn't any. I mean, they were allegedly using bronze tools, and yet they were carving these immense boulders. And there's people that say, oh yeah, they could have done it, and we can prove it. And maybe that is true, but my God, when you look at not only the pyramids but Pumapunka and the absolute laser precision of these megaton
Absolutely.
granite blocks.
You're right.
Yeah, that are fit
Yes.
together like they were machined today, and we could probably not even
Yes.
accomplish that today. And how did they move those
No.
things? There's so many questions.
Pumapunka is ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot not really put a razor blade inside of
And those
the
seams.
crevices of the blocks.
Yeah, they're so perfectly
I
fitted.
don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've heard the speculation that they may have had a technology at somewhere, and I'm sure it was given to them. I really do subscribe to that whole alien astronaut idea. I think that makes sense. But there's
Yeah.
a theory that there was a technology that they had that would soften rock, and then they could mold it, and then it would harden. I don't know how that would be possible. I have no idea.
But wouldn't they?
Go
Would
ahead.
they soften just a part of the rock,
I
or
don't know, maybe.
because it seems like the whole rock would kind of collapse? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, you'd think so. So maybe it would only work, on the very edges that they were trying to machine and seam down. I don't know, but it's when
I
you,
mean, how did ancient people do that?
right, exactly. But then again, there's old Buddhist stories of these monks with these long horns that could levitate these huge boulders to make their big temples. and that they did it through sound. And I guess
Yeah.
who knows, brother? I mean, we have so much to
Yeah,
learn.
you're right, man.
Yeah, so much to learn.
You are right.
Yeah, I mean,
You are right.
it's really hard to know, but I mean, I think literally there's an entire books and books and books of history that we are not literally books, but just volumes of information, of historical information that we'll never know, because it's been either lost.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like there's these resets that happen, like the world is rebooted every once in a while.
You're absolutely right. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Because
Didn't they? What was the name of the giant library that they burnt down?
in Alexandria, yeah, yep,
Yes, yes, yeah. The Alexandria Library.
yep,
So there was a lot of stuff that that people knew,
right.
and it's just gone.
Yeah, it was all gone. Yeah, that's tragic. It's so sad. And you'd have to believe they had some incredible information and knowledge that was stored there that will always be lost to time now. And it seems for whatever reason these reboots happen, and who knows, like, some people think this is a prison planet, and when we get too far they just kind of reboot us. Who knows? Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. I
Okay.
don't know. Or maybe we reboot ourselves with our own arrogance, and we end up playing
yeah.
with things we shouldn't be, and it just seems like a vicious cycle. But when you look and find, you find
It does.
screws embedded into 300 million year old rock, you find
Yeah.
machined aluminum next to mastodon skulls, in these archaeological digs. It's like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense, but there it is.
Yeah. I don't know if this is real, but I've seen a tennis shoe, a print of a tennis shoe in ancient stuff.
Oh,
I don't understand how that can be possible.
yeah, I don't know. Either it proves time travel, or it proves that civilization rises and then it's rebooted, and it rises and it's rebooted, or somebody used to live here before us and they had a similar curve and then they moved on.
Yeah, you're right. But my thing is, there has to be people alive right now that know what's going on,
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
or at least know a little bit about it.
sure.
And they're not telling people like you and me what's going on.
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty safe bet that, I mean, even in terms of things we do know about, like when you consider that military applications and equipment is 30 or 40 years advanced
Yeah.
to what we have. Well, look at the last 10 years, what came out, and what does that mean that they
You're
have?
right.
What could they
You are
possibly
right.
have? So I think I think that maybe the dogmen were brought here too. I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe they were a first slave race and it didn't work out, and they just kind of broke through because they're, for whatever reasons. So they made a new one. I
Maybe
don't know.
so.
Yeah, but there is definitely a
Have you heard
historical
of,
precedent.
I'm sorry. Have you heard of Dr. David Jacobs before?
The name seems familiar, but I can't place it.
He's a hypnotist who regresses potential alien abductees.
Uh-huh.
And supposedly, because I don't know anything about any of this stuff. I just read a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Supposedly, they are making a hybrid race right now. Well,
Okay.
they probably made a bunch, but they're making one right now that's gonna be able to adapt to our world. Between like a hybrid between the Greys and I don't know if you believe in this, and this is just what I've heard.
Sure.
Hybrid between the Greys and humans, so they can breathe oxygen.
Wow.
And they have a dying planet, and
Oh, sure.
Dr. David Jacobs is really interesting.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting.
So if they can do that, I mean, what can they, like saying like Dogman, and the old Egyptian gods and stuff like that, the hieroglyphic show dog, like Anubis.
Yep.
They show those. I don't understand like why they couldn't have done that back then.
Yeah, I mean, it's
You know what I mean?
very possible. Very possible. again, there is a historical precedent for there being dog-like man people around. Getting back to where I was
Yeah.
at the beginning of the show, the cynocephaly. But are they one in the same?
Yeah.
Are they one in the same to the dogmen that
Thank
we
you,
see
Krista.
today?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe they're something else. I don't know. It's crazy, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, dude. It's really something to think about because
Yeah.
we don't know, you know, we don't know much. There are a lot of planets around us.
Yeah, and
There are a lot, if you look at every star, there's planets revolving around them.
yeah.
How can we possibly think that we are alone?
Well, there's that for sure. I certainly don't. I've seen the UFO stuff myself, so I have no doubt that
Mm.
we are visited.
Man, that was one that happened last night on the Mogi on Monster Show.
Oh, is that right? Wow, I didn't
Yeah,
catch that.
dude, you got to check that out.
Sure, I'll have to check it
Yep. The guest saw one of those.
Wow. Yeah,
He
that's
absolutely did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen one too.
So yeah, so I'm not. Yeah.
I know they're there. I don't know where they're from. They didn't introduce themselves to me, but it was real enough.
I believe you, man. I believe that for sure.
Very
So
cool.
I think my theory is that like a Bigfoot is kind of a scout for the aliens. That's why we don't have bones. That's why we don't have any real evidence.
Sure.
That's just my theory.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, I don't know anything. It's just my guess, wild guess.
Hey, it's like I said before. Every idea is valid. So put it on the table. Someone may build on it.
Hey, man,
I appreciate it though.
I'm gonna go and I'm gonna enjoy your show.
All right, brother. Thanks for calling. It's good to hear from you.
Okay, man. Good to talk to you too.
All right. Good night, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime.
All right.
Very cool. Another good call. Lots of things to think about. And again, I wish I knew. I wish I knew these answers, but all you can do is just grab a line and hold on to it and see where it brings you. It's just all incredible speculation, but there's got to be some truth to all of this. There's got to be something because people are seeing stuff. It's even if you removed all of the physical evidence of Bigfoot and of Dogman, if you removed it all, if you took it all off the board, and there wasn't any footprints casted, if there wasn't any hair samples collected, if there was only eyewitness accounts, the number of accounts, the wide variety of people that are making these claims, the diverse backgrounds, professionals to some guy out doing whatever. I mean, it's from your everyday guy up to professional doctors and lawyers and law enforcement, military, congressmen, presidents. So many people have seen things. I don't know about presidents, but my point being is that you can't, even just on that anecdotal evidence alone, there's too much of it for it to be nothing. There's just too much of it. There's too many people that have seen things, experienced things, and then you add on those footprints, with dermal ridges, with hair samples, and different types of photos that are out there, the Patterson-Gimlin film, and so on and so forth. There's definitely something there, and I'm kind of blanketing Dogman along with Bigfoot into this discussion, but it's the same for each. There's got to be something to this. And I have no doubt personally that this stuff is out there. People are experiencing it. I wanted to get to this mysterious Michigan Dogman. And the first part of it talks about the hoax and the song that kind of started the modern conversation about the Dogman. Basically, it was a song somebody wrote, and people started going, "Oh, hey, I've seen something like that," and it kind of started the conversation. It was kind of supposed to just be a joke, a spoof, but it ended up starting the dialogue that has turned into the Dogman fascination of today. At least that's kind of the genesis of it as far as most people are concerned. But this is talking about other accounts. This is Mysterious Michigan Dogman from the Mainstay to Ann Arbor from Manistee. Okay, Manistee. So 1986, Manistee, Michigan. Ray Greenway is driving home late at night. His headlights reflect off the eyes of something in the field along the road. The eyes are too high off the ground to be a deer. Whatever this creature is, it runs towards him and incredibly leaps clear the 2-lane road. I do remember that I saw both eyes, as if it was looking at me the whole time, Ray later said. That, along with the leaping ability, is what I will never forget. Dogman, the mere mention of the name was enough to strike terror into, well, nobody really, because no one had heard about the creature until the late 20th century. Traverse City, Michigan, in 1987, disc jockey Steve Cook records and plays the song titled The Dogman Legend, or The Legend, which is intended as an April Fool's Day joke. He never heard of the Michigan Dogman at the time of the recording. I made it up completely from my own imagination as an April Fool's Day prank for the radio and stumbled my way to a legend that goes all the way back to Native American times, he explains. He didn't realize at the time the effect the song would have. Let's move on to the next one. 1998, Bristol, Indiana. A person wishing to remain anonymous tells the story. My husband and I had driven through Bristol, Indiana, not far from southern Michigan. It was dark, and I think it was December. There was snow on the ground. We were driving fairly slow due to the snow. Off to the right side of the road in the distance, we saw an animal standing near the side of the road. It was looking at us as we drove closer. We got closer, and we could see that it was smaller than a cow or horse, but it was bigger than a dog. It was not a deer or a bear. Its eyes reflected as we got closer. We could see it was dark in color. It appeared the back legs were shorter than the front legs, and when we were almost up to it, it turned and walked away. Not fast, just casual walk. But it was so dark we couldn't see once it was out of view of the headlights. We always wondered what it could have been. I even thought maybe a wolverine, but it was just too big. I've never heard of the Dogman before tonight, and this was 1998. 2011, Algonac, Michigan. A person wishing to remain anonymous tells this story. After reading this site, some website, and shortly after reading the Dogman article, something hit me from about 5 to 7 years ago when I was in high school. One week while cutting through the woods, we found a deer. It looked as if it had been ripped in half along the trail that we took. I didn't think much about it at all at the time, but now after thinking about it, it didn't look like a human could do it unless it was the Hulk. During the few weeks we would be out in the woods until nighttime, just messing around, having bonfires and fun, but I also felt like something was always watching me out in the woods. That could very well be a Sasquatch kill as well. There's a story that's coming up on our podcast. I interviewed a lady that's written the books. Bigfoot lives in Idaho, and the follow-up Bigfoot still lives, and she tells a story that didn't appear in her books of some hunters back in I think it was in the 60s, were hunting in the Montana wilderness, and they were watching a herd of elk come down the hill, and all of a sudden the herd came by, but then the big bull came. It was just a huge bull elk, and she tells the story that the hunters told her. It came down, and all of a sudden it locked onto something behind a boulder. And the boulder was huge, but it just locked onto it. And suddenly it just charged full out at whatever was behind this boulder. Well, it disappeared, and suddenly it broke through on the other side, and it was a Bigfoot. These guys saw a Bigfoot and this elk going at it. And as she tells the story, they went back and forth a little bit, and suddenly the Bigfoot grabbed the antlers of this elk. Now, if you know what elk are, they are huge. They are nearly the size of moose and very, very powerful. She said that this thing grabbed the antlers of the elk with its left hand, and with its right hand disemboweled this elk. Just disemboweled it, and it died. And then she tells me that the hunters saw this thing pick up the elk, rip it in half, and take the entire hindquarters, threw it over its shoulder, and walked over the mountain. The hunters went up and inspected this kill site. They couldn't believe what they had just seen, but they were of Native American descent, and they knew to use whatever's there, so they did utilize the rest of the carcass, but this is something they witnessed. Just an incredible story. But that's kind of a sneak peek to upcoming that should be released on Sunday. The interview with her, she was a fascinating guest, really very knowledgeable on local lore, especially in this region, which I thought was kind of fun. So she collects stories of Bigfoot encounters. So elk 600 to 1,000 pounds, I think. Yeah, they're huge, really big. That is an incredible story. You're right, Gemini. Very incredible. But this is one, she said she couldn't use it because she only was able to talk to one of the witnesses who was in his 80s, and the rest of them had already passed away. And before she could get back to him to substantiate and ask more questions, he passed away. So unfortunately, that story went there, but it still survives. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. Last break right now. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Don't go away for more of the Paranormal Portal and more discussion about the Dogman.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm I think I'm back, as that was a fine bumper music bringing us back into the show. Hope you guys are doing great. Thank you for being here. It's always a great pleasure to look up and see all those fun faces in the YouTube chat and the TFR live chat as well. Thank you guys for being here. Remember to stick around after the show, because coming up next on TFR iHeart Tune In and Talk Stream Live is our very own Paisley Wild. Coming up with the spaces between and following Paisley is the Duke. World Bigfoot Radio will be coming up as well. Paisley does stream her show on YouTube as well, youtube.com/the spaces between. And Duke is in the chat room usually for his show. So if you go over to tfrlive.com/chat, you can hang out with the Duke, get a lot of inside information and pictures. Oftentimes he'll post other pictures of evidence and stuff that was discovered or that helps to tell the story. So it's a great opportunity. Friday nights are absolutely fabulous here on TFR Live. So as well as on YouTube on our respective channels. But lots to stick around for. Great shows coming up. This isn't it. So just spreading the love here. But anyway, we're talking about Dogman here tonight on the show. And I'm going through an article of Michigan. I got to see where I got to. Okay, so this next one, we're talking about some accounts of the Michigan Dogman. This one's coming from 2015 out of Ann Arbor in Michigan. I used to party there a bunch when I was younger. It's a college town, so it's a pretty hopping place. Or it was back in the day anyway. A person wishing to remain anonymous reports it was late at night after a small barbecue party at my uncle's farm miles north of Ann Arbor. I was coming out of the barn to get some more food when I heard sticks breaking in the tree line to my right. About 7 feet off the ground, a long muzzle poked through the trees, followed by the full figure of this creature. It was only 20 feet away from me, so I got the full picture. It was tall and lean, but very muscular. It had a distinct brown pelt on its body, with blackish fur on its shoulders. It had huge paws for feet, but its hands looked like they had 5 fingers, so they resembled long human hands except for the fur and the claws on the ends of them. Its head was the scariest. This thing had a huge set of canines. It looked like it was snarling, but I believe it was trying to smile. Oh, God, I wouldn't roll the dice on that one. My father, uncle, cousin, and grandfather all came out to the barn, and it turned around, dropped to all fours, and leaped into the forest, making only a slight noise. It's easy to dismiss such stories as the imaginings of nut jobs or the result of impairment. Our logical minds flip through the Rolodex of extenuating factors, tricks of light and shadows, stress, hallucination disorders of one kind or another, a need for attention, or just flat out lying, but not always. Sometimes the story is what it is. The following two just happen just as they are told. These are my stories, and I have no penchant or patience for cryptozoology, nor was I impaired. 2003, Pictured Rocks, Michigan. It is dark. I'm alone at Mosquito Beach, backcountry campground, and something obviously bipedal stands nearby, looking up the pole where I've hung my food. I can only make out a tall black shape. The pole clinks and the form drops to all fours, bolting past my tent. My first thought is, that's the biggest dog I've ever seen. In the year 2000, Copper Harbor, Michigan, my son Larry and I are driving down Brockway Mountain Lookout in the early morning to catch the ferry to Isle Royale. A black shape darts across the road, stops, rises upright, and glares at us. I snap a picture, but my hands are so shaky, it blurs. The creature drops and disappears into the trees. Larry and I look at each other. Holy crap, one of us says. I've never heard of the Dogman until last year. Up until then, I thought these were just weird encounters with maybe bears or something. It's not difficult to retro-imagine them as dogmen now that I've heard the idea. And that is the real mystery here. Why do we let our minds be so easily tricked? Well, there you have it. Maybe they were bears. Maybe they were not. But interesting all the same. This one is coming from Kentucky, and this is kind of shows the amazing scope and range of these things. And this is the part that really surprised me as I started to dive into the Dogman phenomena, years ago. Is this isn't just one place. It's not just one region. It's diverse and it's spread all over the place. Again, I think maybe if everybody that's seen a cryptid would just suddenly turn purple, we might just be really shocked at how many people have seen these kind of things. But, we'll just never know, because some people just don't want to share. They don't want to be a part of this idea or this discussion. They just want to go back and hang on desperately to their paradigm, because that's where the world is safe. That's where it makes sense. Where they have a job, they have weekends, they have friends, they have families, and that's the safe space. So when something comes and absolutely shatters that paradigm, there's so many people will just let it die in their minds. They just won't perpetuate it. They don't want it to be known. They don't want people to know about it. They just want life to go back to where it made sense. And so they'll just bury it. But I think probably the number of people that have seen these things is enormously bigger than the number that we hear reported. It's, and maybe that's part of the scope of all of these shows, like, my show, other shows, big Sasquatch Chronicles, any Bigfoot shows that are out there, Dogman Encounters with Vic, every one of these shows, I think World Bigfoot Radio, any of them that talk about this, Bigfoot Odyssey, et cetera, they are increasing the narrative because people are having the dialogue, they're hearing the dialogue, they're becoming more comfortable with the dialogue, which is really cool. And, I've said this many times on the show, but I mean this sincerely. For all the knocks that people have, in the Bigfoot community about shows like Finding Bigfoot, the truth of the matter is before that show, people didn't talk about Bigfoot. People didn't have these discussions. So at the very least, and I enjoyed the show for what it was. I mean, it was a network show about finding Bigfoot. And so cool. They talked about behaviors. They talked about, eyewitness reports. They went to these locations so you could see how it happened. And they had the dialogue, and they made that dialogue okay. And, the same is true for, the Dogman dialogue. It's out there now, and people are having these discussions. And it's not as dangerous now. The more people are talking about their sightings and experiences, and, they're okay with being a part of that community more and more, because the community is full of normal people, other people that are just normal, that have had something really bizarre happen that they don't know what to do with. So I think all of our shows, and this means the whole paranormal community in general, same for ghosts, everything, and UFOs. The more dialogue that happens, the better, because, suddenly all these other stories will come out, and people will be okay having these discussions. So this one's about the Kentucky Dogman. I don't know if I want to read this one or if I want to read this other one of the Minnesota Dogman, which I thought was really cool. Oh, now that page is all flaking out. There we go. Okay, so it says, this is coming from KDHL, the mighty 920. And it's KDHLradio.com. Have you ever heard of the Minnesota Dogman? Now, I'll tell you, growing up in Minnesota, I never heard a thing about Dogman or Bigfoot in those regions. And that's why, hearing about the Minnesota Dogman now is like, God, I was out in these woods all the time as a kid. Nobody told me. I don't know if I would have been so brave and stuff if I had known what might be out there. But it all ended okay for me, so that's okay. But it is interesting all the same. So, have you heard about the Loch Ness Monster? Did you know that Minnesota also has a monster? The Minnesota Dogman. There have been a few alleged sightings in northern Minnesota of this cryptid. Let's talk about some of them. All of these stories have been posted on Cryptid Wiki on Fandom. And all three of these are from anonymous people, so do with it what you will. The first alleged sighting of the Dogman was just north of Duluth at an Air Force base in 1999. This anonymous guy said that he was working in the third shift, which runs 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. He said he was on a side of the base near the forest in the patrol truck, which is an F-150. That's a Ford truck. For any of you that don't know, I used to own an F-150. Darn good trucks. All you Ford haters, just keep it to yourself. As we were driving around, he noticed a pair of eyes reflect back at him. The eyes were apparently the same height as his, even though he was sitting in an F-1, well, it says F-105, but I think he means F-150. Then, whatever it was, took off. He drove after it and only saw the back of the creature as it bounded into the forest, and he said it looked like a wolf. It had huge back paws and a tail about 2 feet long, matted fur that was blonde or light brown, and he could hear it running through the forest and said it sounded like a moose. It was so loud. The next alleged sighting of the Minnesota Dogman was from Fergus Falls in 2009. The man was driving into town on a country road. He noticed on the side of the road 3 deer, so he stopped to look at them. Then he noticed a bizarre creature behind a tree watching the deer, as if waiting for the right opportunity to pounce. He said that it appeared to be bipedal, and what seemed to be once of the creature's hand, one of the creature's hands, was leaning on the tree, and it looked like it had opposable thumbs. If the creature stood up, it would probably be about 7 feet tall, according to this guy. And he also said that it had a protruding muzzle, broad shoulders, a slender waist, thick and muscular thighs, and eventually the deer ran off, and then the creature turned and looked at him. He got so freaked out, he slammed on the gas and took off. And then the final alleged sighting took place in Long Prairie. They don't list a date, but it happened in the summer, and the anonymous man says he was out hunting squirrels early one morning when he saw a humanoid dog thing sitting at the edge of the woods. He shot it. He shot at it a couple of times, and there was a yelp, and whatever it was ran off. He called the police, who came out to take a look, and they found a few paw prints and eventually said that it was probably just a wolf, but this anonymous guy wasn't totally convinced. Well, there you have it. Those are three stories of the Minnesota Dogman. Now, I've never heard it referred to as the Minnesota Dogman before, and I find that interesting. I don't know. Everybody wants to regionalize these things. The Minnesota Dogman, the Michigan Dogman, the Ohio Dogman, the Bray Road Dogman. You know, and I guess that's fair enough because it's a descriptor. But it doesn't seem like any one area has the market cornered on these things for sure, because they are everywhere. Sorry about that. Had to wet my mouth. I've been talking a lot. I guess we can get into the other one. We've got about 12 minutes left. So I'll try to get into the Kentucky Dogman. This is an article written on medium.com, and it's written by Timothy Scott Couch. And from March 5th, 2019. It's a quick little story. It says, I live in the deep hills, southeastern Kentucky. We basically grew up in the mountains here, learning what is safe and what is not. There are many stories here which I believe to be true, and the Dogman is just one of them. I grew up hearing the older gentlemen talk about things being in these mountains that did not belong here. I recall many sightings of mountain lions, first-hand experiences, one where a horse was mauled and the rider was bucked off. There was a few stories of a wild boar and bears that weighed 500-plus pounds. So needless to say, we were all taught to be aware and to be safe from a very young age. Well, I grew up doing a lot of hunting and fishing from around 12 years old on up. I have seen and heard things I simply will not ever be able to explain. But it was not until my teenage years that I began hearing stories of something called a Dogman. I was around 16 when I first heard of an incredible event from 2 very trustworthy people. They came face to face with what they described as a terrifying beast that could have ran them down and killed them had it chosen to. They had observed it for an extended amount of time, diving into a pond and catching fish on a sunny day. The description sent chills down my spine. He stood around 6.5 feet, and they said it was with a muscular but slender build. He had the face of a dog, almost exactly the same, but the body of a man. The legs were different. They were not straight, but had a noticeable bend to the knees. His hair was medium blackish brown and short to medium length, and you could clearly see his canine teeth as he would tilt his head up, sniffing the air every few minutes. I'm pretty sure he smelled us. He seemed to know where we were there, but seemed more scared and nervous of being watched, and soon headed back into the thick underbrush. Once I looked online, I realized maybe we should not be so fast to dismiss these stories. There are thousands of sightings all over the United States of this creature, and many that are firsthand. Many of them have very credible witnesses as well. This one I found matches almost exactly. It started growling and started sniffing the air. Its snout went up, and it turned its head slightly as it was sniffing, and then took a few steps forward. This one was hunting deer, and there were many, many other stories out there that match this one. These sightings are now all over the United States and coming in daily. I wish I knew where they were coming in, because it takes a lot to find these stories. So what are we seeing? Many say that it's the basis for the story of the werewolf, which I really cannot disagree with. It is clear people are seeing something. This is a current map of dogman sightings around the United States. Even if we could disprove half of these, in doing so, we would also prove that the other half is something that has, for the most part, remained hidden in nature for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So next time you decide to take a walk near the deep, dark mountains here in southeast Kentucky, be aware, because those footsteps or sounds of something rustling in the woods may not be a playful squirrel or raccoon. It could very well be the dogman staying just out of eyesight watching you. I'm going to put this link into the TFR chat so you guys can see what he says is a current map of dogman sightings in the U.S. I will put it on screen for those of you in my YouTube channel. We will look at it together. It's a small map, really, but it's it's a pretty busy map too. I don't know if I can zoom into it or not. No, not really. It's actually, it gives me a plus sign, then I click it and it gets smaller. That's not how that's supposed to work. But anyway, you can see the prevalence of these sightings. And now, any gaps in here are only because something wasn't seen or witnessed. So it doesn't mean they're not in these other areas. It just means where there are red dots are where people have claimed to see them. I mean, even down into Florida, all the way up into Maine and into Canada. There's a few in Canada, all over the West Coast, through, the Oregon into Idaho, into Montana, down. That's pretty intense. It's really surprising because, from the Mississippi River east, it's just a mess of red dots. To the Mississippi River and west, it's a little less red dots, but then again, less population density out here until you hit the coast. So that's not really surprising. But yeah, I mean, they are literally all over the place, ladies and gentlemen. And what do you do? So the ideas are out there. I don't know what you guys think this thing is. I don't know for sure what I think it is. Where did it come from? God, I don't know. Because again, getting back to my discussion with Ben, it's not like, with Bigfoot, there is a trail of what would probably be its ancestors, on its quote unquote evolutionary path. And this isn't a story about Darwinism versus creationism, whatever. But my point is that you can see a lineage from the primates into what could become Bigfoot, and including us. But there's obviously the missing links. And I don't think Bigfoot is the missing link. I just think that it's a different branch of the tree, so to speak. And but for something like a dogman, where's an ancestral basis for that? Would it follow along with the canines? But where did the human element come from? Where did the bipedal humanoid element come from? Because in chimpanzees and other of our ancestors, you can very well see the basis for what became us or the Bigfoot or whatever. I mean, it's in all of those common ancestors. But in the ancestors of dogs and other canines, there's not a bipedal element in them. There's not a humanoid build with hands that may very well have opposable thumbs. These are key developments in the genetic line that they couldn't have just exploded onto the scene all of a sudden. There couldn't just be one big aberration. There's nothing to set a precedent for that historically. So what are they? Did they come from here? Did they come from somewhere else? And that's, that's as plausible an idea as any. And I know it may sound way out there to some of you out there listening and watching the show, but where did it come from? I don't know. But there doesn't seem to be any doubt that they are there, that they are out there, and they are a part of our world. They're part of our wild areas. It's surprising the number of sightings where they don't seem to be overly concerned that they're being viewed. That to me always surprises me. Why wouldn't they just, oh God, there's people coming, I can smell them, let's get the hell out of here? But they don't do that all the time. I believe they probably do it most of the time, but what is happening in these rare occasions where they're just sticking around? Where they're just kicking back going, oh yeah, there's people coming. Screw them, I'm hunting. Screw 'em. I'm hungry. I don't care. I don't know. They just don't seem to mind. They just kind of stick around and do their thing, and then they mosey off as if, oh, yeah, whatever. I think that is so amazing, so incredibly bizarre, but it's the creatures, man. They must be extraordinarily confident in their abilities. Obviously, they're very quick. They're very strong. They're very lethal. Apparently guns don't hurt them, and they seem to be quite intelligent. Are they as intelligent as Bigfoot? I think so, maybe. Maybe in that same plane, maybe Bigfoot are way more intelligent than we think they are. Maybe those are the super intelligent ones. I don't know. You just think about developmentally, and if you measure cognitive ability based on brain size, then obviously the Bigfoot would be the more intelligent of them, but just because if their heads are shaped like wolves, if their heads are very similar to wolves, then, oh, thank you, Chemtrail Mix. I got bluff charged by some being many years ago on my reserve. I stood my ground even though I was unarmed. It's a long story, but I was curious. Wow. And thank you so much for that donation. I appreciate that. That's incredible, and I'd love to hear that story, brother. If you want to share it with me or be a guest on the show or on the podcast, let me know. Reach out to me on paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. But getting back to the physiology or anatomy, if their heads are basically a wolf head mounted on what looks like a dog cross, human, then probably their cerebral area is not going to be as huge as what would be on a Bigfoot, and probably not as huge as ours. But are they intelligent enough? I don't know. Now, there is an argument that the size of a brain really doesn't matter because, case in point, there are people that have been born with a condition called hydrocephaly, and basically it's the old saying is a waterhead, and essentially their brain doesn't develop very well at all, if at all, and they end up with mostly fluid in their skull. But now some of these same people that were able to survive and grow into adulthood had normal IQs, had professional lives. So with only what turned out to be a small lining of gray matter along the inside of their skull, and then all of that fluid. So apparently brain size doesn't play into it as much as we think it does. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I love you guys bunches, and I hope you enjoyed the journey tonight. Definitely stick around. Paisley Wild coming up next, and then after her, the Duke. World Bigfoot Radio coming up on TFRLive.com, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. But I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Don and I will be back tomorrow night to tear it up again, so I hope you'll join us. But until then, have a great Friday night.